Thank you for your time today. And this movie is really quite extraordinary. It pretty much blew me away when I watched it. And I know that it kind of originated from a short film, but tell me about how it grew into this feature.
Yeah, so I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I wrote a short film, and it was kind of based on a dream that I had where I was following this girl through some streets, and I could like never quite catch up with her and never quite see who she was, in the way that dreams sometimes go.
Yeah.
But it really stuck with me, and so I wrote it into a short film, and I took that film on a sort of writing lab, and I arrived there, and there were sort of lots of other writers and directors, and we'd all read each other's work. And this one guy came up to me, and he assumed that I was a lesbian because he'd read my work and he thought that it was about sort of lesbian desire.
Yeah.
And I was so confused because at the time I wasn't, and it wasn't something I'd ever thought about. I was in a relationship with a guy, and I hadn't read my own work in that way at all.
Right.
So I kind of thought he was weird. He was certain about this, and I was certain that I wasn't. And I sort of didn't speak to him for the rest of the week and got on with my stuff. Anyway, time passed, and I don't know, 5 or 6 years later, I was no longer in that straight relationship, and I was like having questions about my sexuality, and kind of coming out. And I thought back to that moment and back to that piece of work,
Right.
and wondered whether that guy had been right, and whether I had unconsciously written something about my own desires without even knowing, years before they kind of came to fruition consciously.
It's interesting that he caught that,
I
like
know,
that
yeah.
somebody would read something and then read into it, and then all those years later, you discover that it could be true. I find that amazing.
Yeah, I was kind of amazed by it as well. So that was enough of like a spark to go back into that project and look again at, it was based on this dream, and kind of look at how the ways that our consciousness can play tricks on us, and the ways in which we have to kind of delve through our own fears in order to find our desires. And that's sort of what makeup is ultimately about.
Yeah. And then of course, you most importantly, you have to cast your film, and you find Molly Windsor, who is so good in this. I mean, we've seen her in some other things. She's won a BAFTA, for goodness sake. We know she's talented. But what did you see in her that you thought she'd make a perfect Ruth?
Well, it was quite a tricky character because she has to be quite very naive
Yeah.
and sort of unknowing, and she doesn't know herself very well, and yet at the same time, she has to. There's something about her that wants to discover that, and that wants to sort of face up to these things, and that she's feeling but not quite sort of understanding. So with Molly, she kind of had this perfect blend, and right from the first time that she did like a self-tape and sent it in to us, it was very clear that she's such a naturalistic actor, and she's a very honest performer, and those were sort of important qualities because it was vital in the film that you never think that she knows more than she's letting on, that she's being cunning, that she kind of is, we have to be on her side,
Yeah.
and go on the journey with her. And I felt that Molly would be able to take us along with her.
Yeah, how collaborative were the two of you in developing Ruth and Because obviously, look, you're the writer, director, it's your baby, you don't want to change things around. But I would think when you're working with an actor like Molly, you would be collaborative and let her, kind of go with things. Is that how it went?
I mean, by the time we started shooting, Molly knew the character and the script better than I did. She's very conscientious, and she thinks very deeply about everything. And so, she would come to set saying like, I was thinking in this scene, because should we do this because in 3 scenes time Ruth thinks this. And I'm like, God, she's she had it all right there, and that was incredible because you could have these conversations about the character and about the story, and how much she knew and what she was feeling and all of these things, and the performance grew out of that, really. And yeah, we essentially shot the script, but and we didn't do much improvisation.
Right.
But in terms of you know bringing in ideas from Molly and from the other actors, even ideas from the DOP Nick Cook, we all kind of worked together, and we were living on the caravan park while
Yeah.
we were shooting. So it was a very collaborative, very sort of sealed off, intense shoot, which kind of meant that by the time we were a couple of weeks into the shoot and we'd sort of hit our flow, I really felt like everyone knew what this film was.
Yeah.
We all had the same vision. And then it was very exciting to sort of work with other people's ideas and not fear that my ideas might be sort of slipping away, or it just felt like we were all doing the same thing and making the same film. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the caravan park because, from what I understand, it was a public set. You were actually working in an area where people were just coming and going and living and doing their thing. So, what was that like for you? To work on this location, and then I would think too, as you were mentioning, it kind of maybe was a sense of community because you all became so close and you were in this small environment together. So, what was that like?
I mean, the working in an environment that was open was really useful in some scenes. Like there's a big party scene where we needed a lot of extras. So a lot of the people who were at the party were actually just staying on the caravan park at the time and wanted to be involved. So there were moments like that it was really handy to have people around. But also it was a big park and we kind of kept ourselves. It was off season when we shot.
Yeah.
And also we were shooting splits. So we would start shooting at like 2 PM and shoot till 2 AM.
Right.
So we could get half daylight and half night. So it was only like a few hours in the afternoon that we were kind of possibly around at the same time as the holiday makers. So it wasn't sort of too much of a clash. And the owners of the park were extremely helpful in like trying to figure out how they could help us with anything that we needed.
That's great. And you also I had the privilege of talking with Molly this morning, and I said, yeah, she's lovely, and I said, boy, you were put through some torture, like Water City, like she was in the sea, you had her, soaking wet in the rain, but shooting out in that sea, I was thinking, because in the UK, the water's not that warm either. So that was not very nice of you, Claire.
No, it was freezing, and we left those because we shot in like March and April, and we left the sea scenes like right to the end of the shoot, hoping that the water would be like a degree warmer than before. But it was freezing, and Molly was wearing like wetsuits under all of her clothes, and there were rules about that. She could only be in the water for 3 minutes at a time before coming out again because it was that cold. So it was tough actually those days. I remember with my DOP Nick, before we shot, we'd watched a video of how Barry Jenkins had shot the sea scenes in Moonlight.
Interesting. Okay.
And Barry had said that he didn't direct them at all. The sea had directed them. And we kind of laughed and were like, oh yeah, whatever, like it'll be fine, we'll get what we need. And within half an hour, we're like, he's right.
He's right.
The sea is going to direct these scenes.
Didn't win no for nothing, right?
So yeah, we had to let go control and just get what we got. But we shot quite a lot in the swimming pool of the caravan park as well. So all of the underwater stuff was actually in the pool, which was a lot more controlled and a lot easier.
Yeah, it's so funny because there's a lot of talk in this film, a specific scene about wearing acrylic nails. And I was telling Molly that I said before pandemic, I actually did. I wore acrylic nails, and then once, the salons were all closed, they slowly started to come off. And now I thought I'll never go back. Now that I watch this film, 100% I will never go back. What was the using the acrylic nails? And I also have to mention too, I love the coloring. Like so much red in this film, and I love that. So what was the impetus of the thinking about those two things too?
Well, with the nails and the long hair on the wigs, and the lipstick, she sees a lip print on the mirror.
Yeah.
All these kind of very stereotypical feminine tropes. I was kind of interested in using them and seeing how they felt to Ruth throughout the film. So at points they're quite scary and off-putting. At other points, she's intrigued by them. They're kind of alluring, and at other points, she owns them and they're quite empowering. And so I was interested to see sort of how these feminine tropes can feel to someone who's going through that coming of age, sort of coming out moment in their life, and sort of exploring what femininity means to them. So yeah, I was interested in using them and using them in sort of different ways.
Right.
Little bits of body horror creeping in.
Yeah, that had a sense of Carrie a little bit when I watched it.
Yeah,
I had that feeling about that same kind of Carrie with her coming of age and all that. Yeah, it was really well. What are you hoping, or what do you think people will get from this, and what are you hoping that they'll get from it or take away from watching it?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I've had, when we've screened at festivals before, the COVID struck, we had a couple of festivals, which was so nice because it's like, an opportunity where I get to really feel and understand what the audiences have been thinking about during the film and the questions they have. And I've had all sorts of people come up to me with quite different things. People saying that it's helped them understand someone in their family who recently came out and they never understood before what a big deal it was, because coming out these days in some countries, we're lucky enough for it not to feel like a big deal from the outside socially, but it still can be internally. So it was nice to hear how much they'd got from it. Other people, they love like the funny parts of the film. The character of Shirley gets a lot of laughs. The spooky parts, and at the end it's quite uplifting. So I don't know. I think there's probably something in there for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Claire. I really appreciate it, and best of luck with the movie, in North America and here in Canada, and hopefully after the pandemic, we'll see you doing some more great work. I hope you have I hope it's turning in your head what you want to do next.
It is. I'm writing away, making the most of this time without any distractions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for today, and have yourself a good rest of your day. Nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Claire, take care. Bye-bye.